Check out all that starch at the bottom. Cheers, everybody. This is Maria with SimplyWell. And tonight I want to be following up on my whole video and catch you up to speed with my experiment to explore the depths of my emotions and to look at my tension patterns, which is really another way of saying looking at the stress in my life. So to get a little context, please watch the first video that I made on this emotional healing work experiment that I've been doing. I went off my protocol for a month and a half. I've gone on and off my protocol frequently enough to know that migraines crop up 3 weeks after going off of the protocol, and so this provides me an opportunity to do experiments and to try to find and continue to explore the deeper underlying root causes of migraine, since my protocol makes me completely free of migraines when I'm on it, but clearly hasn't addressed the root cause since they come back when I go off. So, quick summary here. So tension myoneural syndrome is a term that Dr. Robert Sarno coined to describe the way in which the mind tricks the body tricks the mind tricks itself into believing that emotional tension is just physical pain with a physical cause. So the idea is that some of our unconscious emotions, we have a belief system that they would be totally overwhelming if they became conscious, and that we would actually, because they come from our childhood, that we would be vulnerable and basically unsafe socially, and if we were to actually let ourselves experience and feel these feelings. So from the child's perspective, you know, some of the programming comes from the belief that the parents would reject them or abandon them if they were to express things that the parents disapproved of. So being a parent right now, this is pretty insightful to think of while parenting young kids, because the end result of a lot of this tension that's held inside is perfectionism and do-goodism. So do-goodism is, you know, always trying to please, maybe believing that you always kind of fall short, that maybe you didn't ever really meet up to your parents' criterion. And I think it's, you know, it's tied in with low self-esteem as well. And also what I see with people who have migraines and the people I've coached is really being kind of hard on yourself, and it's, you know, like perfectionism, basically just yeah, having a lot of performance anxiety, but also as a result being a real performer, being really trying hard to please or meet the bar. So a lot of people who have migraines have a lot of tension around this. They're actually very accomplished people and very intelligent people and also very driven people, partially because of some of these tensions that exist, because they're trying to still please parental figures, in other words, and they just, once they move out of the house and become adults, they just end up imposing those pressures on themselves. So yeah, so, you know, there's a lot of tensions just in life. You know, I'm at a life stage raising young kids where it's just really intense. There's a lot of demands on my system. So above and beyond anything from my childhood, you know, it's just like the physical demand of nursing, the demands of nursing at night, especially where my sleep is disrupted. That affects my tension throughout the day because I don't have any time and space to renew. And I've spoken to a lot of mothers, and a lot of them are still sleep deprived, even when their kids are like teenagers. You know, they feel like since the moment their child was born, they just have not really had the time to renew themselves. And a lot of mothers these days work and have kids, you know, so I'm focusing a little bit much on women, but that's because the majority of the people in my practice are women. I've had a few men and had success with putting them on the protocol too. But I want to talk a lot about women's particular tensions today, because the majority of, I think it's like 2/3 of people who have migraines are women. So there's a hormonal component there, obviously. And I want to touch on that for a second, because a lot of, you know, my ebook describes mostly the issue of glutamates and inflammation from the perspective of gut health. But it's interesting to think about in terms of hormones, because here's how I see it. You know, the stress and tension are just such a physical demand on the body that they literally affect our hormones, because cortisol, which the adrenals secrete during stress, is actually made from progesterone. So whenever we're stressed, which, you know, no matter what the other stresses in our life are, if we've reached a point where we have chronic headache and migraine, that in and of itself is stressful, right? So that's going to be causing a lot of cortisol to be released, and cortisol is made from progesterone. Progesterone is a glutamate scavenger. So all the glutamates are an excitatory neurotransmitter. The buildup of these glutamates in our system is going to happen at much higher levels in the absence of progesterone, since progesterone is a glutamate scavenger, and progesterone will be low in states of stress since cortisol uses progesterone to be made. So, you know, we can't really afford to be stressed out all the time, because it's just going to keep depleting our progesterone. So as women, we really have to take care of ourselves, and we really have to pace ourselves. And this is a hard thing to do. And I, you know, just in listening to women and doing coaching with them, I've seen and noticed that, you know, there's also stresses and tensions that women hold, especially in this culture, around, you know, looking young and beautiful well into their later years. You know, I've had at least 4 or 5 clients who say that their migraines are probably related to some kind of plastic surgery that they had, whether it was liposuction or a facelift or a boob job. There's just this enormous pressure on women to look a certain way. And I'm going to turn 40 this year. So, you know, I feel that pressure as well, but it's amazing how, like, a woman's life can literally get ruined by caving into this pressure to look a certain way when going in to get surgery, and then having all the antibiotics and everything, you know, ruin her gut flora. But along with that, holding the tension of feeling like I have to look like I'm 20 years old, you know? So it's just interesting, because, you know, there's also tension around birth and the birth process. I know that's where my surgery took place that really tipped me over the edge. So women are kind of, you know, either choose to have more surgery or are more susceptible to surgery by way of our medicalized birth process, and not to mention the hormones, the hormonal birth control that women are on, that can also throw their hormones off. So there's just a lot of tension around being a fertile human being and being an aging human being who wants to still look like a fertile human being, right? So it's just, yeah, I think it's coming to the point where, I guess what I'm trying to say is that in order for women to, and myself, to manage our tension more as women, we have to be kinder to ourselves. We have to be gentler on ourselves. We have to, you know, see our beauty as we age. We have to find forms of birth control that are actually natural and supportive. We have to advocate for ourselves and reclaim the birth process so we don't end up just getting screwed over with unnecessary interventions and C-sections. What I'm saying is all of these things, hormonal birth control, interventions in the birth process, and I guess also in the process of menopause, you know, women are on a lot of hormonal interventions there as well, and then plus all the surgeries for plastic surgery. I mean, you look at all of those, and if you add those up, you know, by the time, if a woman already has hormonal imbalances and a lot of tension in her life, by the time she's in her 50s and 60s, it's like, this can get to be pretty deep-seated and chronic. And so I think that the emotional healing work has to do with really looking at our sense of our value, you know, and, sorry, I thought I heard my baby wake up. And so when we're looking at the TMS concept, the tension myoneural syndrome, the value, the self-value, and knowing that we are good enough and that we are doing enough, you know, is sort of the antidote to the personality type that never thinks it's good enough, or, you know, never did a good enough job, or is just, you know, not quite perfect enough, or not quite beautiful enough, or whatever it is, you know. There's this drive that comes from this insecure self and this tension that drives people, and especially women, I think, to live stress-filled lives in trying to meet these very unrealistic goals and trying to balance fertility and work and kids. And I mean, it's a lot. So women are just doing so much. Just, God, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work being a mother and being a woman. So I hope, sorry to any of the guys who are watching this if you feel left out, but Anyway, and then aside from that kind of personalized female tension, um, I'm noticing, well, in this journal, this emotions journal that I made, a lot of just generalized tension. I mean, like, modern life is just really, really fast, right? And then there's the tension of having migraines and having headaches. So as I was doing this experiment, I started getting, I mean, I was having a pretty bad headache almost every night for like a week. And I was also particularly sleep deprived during that week, not only because of the headaches, but because my son was teething. And, you know, it was like, I was feeling annoyed by the opportunity to do emotional work with the headache, because it's like, it's kind of redundant, right? It's like you have a headache, you feel tension around it, and then you're like asking, oh, what do I feel about this? Well, I feel tension because I have a headache. It's like, well, what's underneath that? It's like, no, I feel tension because I have a headache. Like, I was feeling annoyance at the idea that there was some deeper stuff that I needed to do, because in that state of having a headache, it's like you're already overextended, you know, you don't have the capacity to do deeper work at that point. But some people that have been sharing with me in the Facebook group that they have been using that opportunity to really go into their feelings and really feel them. And I did actually have a few headaches go away just from that process, but they'd kind of come back and then go away. And like throughout the day, I just realized at this point with my little kids, I don't really have the capacity to do this kind of emotional work. But I think it's totally on point and totally valuable. I mean, I do think that there's something to this, because I really think in order to heal, we have to go through the eye of the storm. And this was actually the first time since I wasn't on my protocol that I reached for a pill in order to get rid of a headache. And I realized even if a pill is a natural solution like glycine or niacin, which I will write more about in some ebooks that I have coming out for you, both of these worked beautifully to get rid of my headache. So I never had a full-blown migraine. But regardless, if it's a pill, you're avoiding something. You just want to be able to move on, and you just want the headache to go away. So if it's true that the headache is at least partially coming from emotional stress and tension, then any ability to reach for a pill is avoiding at least part of the root cause. And that is the same thing as saying, to the extent that we're avoiding the emotion, looking at the emotional stress and dealing with it, we're actually perpetuating the sickness further, right? And I mean, this is the first time since I've ever had headaches, you know, in a decade of having headaches, that I've had the ability to reach for a pill, because, you know, Tylenol and all those pharmaceutical meds have never been an option for me. But having found glycine and niacin, I now know what it feels like to just be able to put yourself out of your misery just by reaching for a pill. Why would you ever do emotional work? You know, it's like, it's just such a relief to just have all of that dissolve, and then to be able to go on with your life with a lot less tension because you don't have headaches, right? So, anyway, so I'm grateful for the experiment, because I was able to discover the glycine solution, and because I did this journaling work and became a lot more aware of my emotions. But then the question came up, well, is it possible to be on the protocol and to still do this emotional work? And I think theoretically, yes, but in reality, no. Since I got back on the protocol, I've just been enjoying having a clear head. And yeah, I still have emotional tension in my life, but I haven't been looking at it as closely. But it is a very rich area that I feel like when my kids aren't so little, I'm not so sleep deprived from my son nursing me at night, I do want to go off the protocol, because I want to, you know, ultimately I want to be free. Some part of me resents having to do my protocol in order to be free of migraines. And some part of me is just like, I should be able to live a life, and it's kind of a ridiculous idea, that I should be able to live a life where I don't have to do anything to feel great. I just am naturally healthy without any maintenance. I mean, now that I think about it, it's kind of a ridiculous notion. Like, everything needs maintenance. Brushing your teeth needs maintenance. Relationships need maintenance. Why would I resent just having to take prebiotics and drink healthy, delicious juices in order to be clear? I mean, it's just the part of myself that wants to be completely independent, that wants that. But when I really look at the comparison between being off the protocol and having headaches and having to abort them constantly, even with natural means that I've discovered, or being on the protocol and not having headaches, what is easier? Clearly being on the protocol is easier. So doing this has given me a renewed appreciation for the protocol and just how easy it is, because I was on it for so long that I was starting to feel resentful of having to do all this stuff all the time just to maintain a clear head. And now I don't feel resentful, I feel grateful. I feel very grateful for this. And I'm still gonna keep, experimenting and trying to find additional solutions and, try to go deeper to the root cause. But for right now, I'm just grateful that I do have this solution. So cheers to the resistant starch. Thanks for listening to me ramble tonight. Hope that was insightful for some of you. I know that people are not really that interested in emotional healing. I know this because I, can see how many people open my emails when I send out an email blast for my blog, and people are interested in nutrition. They don't really want to go into the emotions, even though we know, that like healing, if we're going to look at it in the most simple way, it does come down to hydrating really well, getting good sleep, exercising, and stress management, right? But I think with stress, it's just like, it's such an individualized thing. There's no formula for it, so it's easy to just kind of put it on the side, even though we know that we should, take better care of ourselves and be, give ourselves more time and space to relax and really nurture ourselves. We always put that on the side because modern life is just so speedy. Taking a pill is so much easier. And I fall into this trap too. So, yeah, just slowing down and taking good care of ourselves, knowing that we're worth it, not being so hard on ourselves, not having such high expectations or being so perfectionistic. That's what I've learned through this experiment. So I'm glad I did it. And I'm glad I have the protocol, and this journey continues to be super insightful and interesting. Hope you guys have a fabulous night, and thank you for watching. Bye.